Hello, and welcome to episode 16 of the Wool Needles Hands Knitting Podcast. My name is Tayler, and I will be your host today. This is a podcast primarily about knitting and other fiber-related topics, but we get into other things from time to time, such as dyeing yarn. I am coming to you from Henderson, Nevada. That is where I am from and where I live with my husband, our 2.5-year-old son Angus, and our cat Oscar, and we are actually expecting another little member of our family in March, and so that's super exciting. It is a boy, so we will have a family of 2 boys, and it is just kind of a whirlwind even thinking about it and saying it out loud, but it's a blessing, so we're really excited about that. If you are a new subscriber and viewer, thank you so much for stopping by to check out the podcast. If you are a returning subscriber and viewer, thank you as well for coming back time and time again to check out the podcast. You all are what keep this going, and it means so much to me to have all the support and love that I receive from you guys here and on Instagram and in Ravelry. It just means so much, so thank you very much. You can find me on Instagram at Wool Needles Hands. You can also find me on Instagram at fiber.for.the.people. That is the Instagram account linked with my hand-dyed yarn business, Fiber for the People Yarn. You can check out all of the hand-dyed yarn goodness at fiberforthepeopleyarn.com. Also, we will be having a shop update, a pretty small one, and it focuses on seasonal tonals for the Fiber for the People Yarn business, and that is this Friday, Black Friday. You can check that out at 10 o'clock a.m. Pacific Standard Time. So Fiber for the People Yarn small shop update this Friday at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. There will be another larger update coming about a week and a half after that, but this is just a small update coming this Friday, which is Black Friday. There will be some special deals going on in the shop as well. If you would like to stay up to date on everything going on in Fiber for the People world, go to the website fiberforthepeopleyarn.com and sign up for the newsletter. It will keep you in the loop on all of the things going on at Fiber for the People. You can also join or follow on Instagram at fiber.for.the.people, and that's another place to stay abreast to what's going on, but definitely sign up for the newsletter. You can also find me on Ravelry. I am Wool Needles Hands on Ravelry as well, and we have a podcast group associated with the Wool Needles Hands Knitting Podcast. Just go to the groups tab and type in Wool Needles Hands, a knitting podcast. Join there, get involved in some of the knit-alongs that we're going to have and currently have going on, or just get involved in the conversation and keep updated with what's going on over there. It is a lot of fun, and we have a really bustling, active group over there. I am super excited to be here with you guys today. We have a full show, lots to talk about, lots of things to share with you guys. Plus, we have a giveaway winner, which I'm really excited about that. So it's going to be a great podcast today. So take a load off, grab a cup of coffee, a cup of tea, hot cocoa, what have you, get your knitting, and join me for a long episode here at the Wool Needles Hands Knitting Podcast channel. Okay, we have one knit-along going on right now and another one upcoming, but the first one that we have going on right now is the Rhinebeck Sweater knit-along. I got involved in this knit-along, which was originally co-hosted by the girls in the Yarn Cafe and myself when I was planning on going to Rhinebeck. But when we found out we were having another little one, things kind of changed, some budgeting changed a little bit, and so we decided to stay home from Rhinebeck this season, go next season. So I actually did not go to Rhinebeck this year, but I am still continuing with this knit-along, and it's just kind of our own little thing going on right here at the Wool Needles Hands Knitting Podcast channel, because the girls in the Yarn Cafe have gone to Rhinebeck or have been to Rhinebeck, and their knit-along is over. But over here, you can still participate in the Rhinebeck Sweater knit-along, and all that is knitting a sweater out of any yarn, and the due date or the deadline is January 1st. So we're just knitting sweaters over here, a sweater of your choosing. It doesn't matter which pattern. It doesn't matter if it's for you or for somebody else, really. We're just knitting sweaters. And that's pretty much it, and sharing all of our work and our finished objects over on the Ravelry group. I'm going to show you guys a quick clip of some of the new finished objects that have come through on the Ravelry page. If you want to see some previous finished objects that I've shared, definitely check out the previous episode of the podcast if you haven't watched it already, or just head over to Ravelry and see what's going on in the knit-along thread over there. So here's a look at some of what's going on in the thread right now. still don't have a prize available to show you yet because it is going to be something hand dyed by me from Fiber for the People, 2 skeins of Fiber for the People yarn, and I'm going to dye those colorways special for this knit along prize. And because the deadline is in January, I will have the actual colorways dyed up closer to the deadline. So you'll just have to wait and see, but they will be beautiful and it will be a great prize for this knit along. Like I said, we have until January 1st. So if you would like to get started now and knit one sweater and then knit another sweater, the more sweaters you knit, the more times I will enter you into the prize. So if you have the gumption to knit more than one sweater between now and January 1st, I definitely know I don't think I can complete more than one sweater between now and January 1st. My track record definitely doesn't show that. But if you have that kind of knitting mojo and knitting speed, I guess I could say, go ahead and try it. I will enter you in every time you knit or complete a sweater for the knit along. In the previous episode of the podcast, I introduced a knitting pattern that I was working up for a pair of long tapered gauntlets that have a women's version, which is long and tapered, and a men's version, which is short. And I'm going to go ahead and show those to you now because I do have a knit along in the works coming up for those. So the gauntlets are finished. I have the ladies version of the long tapered gauntlets that I introduced to you guys in the last episode. So here they are. They are finished. They're beautiful. I love them so much. We have the ladies version, which is this one. They're, like I said, just the long tapered version. I'm going to put them on here so you can see. They are finished. I was going to save these for the finished object segment of the podcast, but it's appropriate right now because we're going to talk about a knit along that I will be hosting revolving around these mitts. So I am calling these the Firepit mitts because we have a fire pit in our backyard and they are the perfect mitts to wear when you're sitting around a fire pit roasting marshmallows. They're comfy, they're cozy, they're relatively loose fitting. They just are everything that I love in a really simple, straightforward, classic fingerless mitt. So here they are. We have a nice, scrunchy, loose kind of aesthetic going on here. I don't know why. That's just like my buzzword lately for whatever reason. I'm gonna go ahead and stand up and give you a little bit of a closer look at the mitt. Okay, so here we are. Like I showed last time, I had one completed in the last episode, but now I have two. Simple design here. There's no cabling, there's no texture other than the stockinette stitch. And to be honest with you, that is something that just really speaks to me most of the time, and especially right now, just that simplicity, that classic look of a good stockinette stitch piece of knitted fabric and a really cool design like a fingerless mitt. I love the rolled edges on these. They're everything to me. I really, really love them so much. And they are tapered, like I mentioned previously, so that they can fit on your upper arm here without being too tight here and loose here. So it's a little bit wider up here and it narrows and tapers down to your wrist. So you kind of get the overall same fit up your arm. You can stretch them out and wear them super long if you want, or like I prefer to do, you can scrunch them down and they fit over a long sleeve shirt, which is a lot of fun too. So they're great. I love them so much. So this is the ladies version, which is the long, and quite honestly, I mean, anybody could wear this. Lady, man, it doesn't really matter. That's just kind of the way that I've thought about them in my mind. But to be completely honest, they might not even be labeled ladies and men's. They're just both pretty unisex. So these just are knit a little bit smaller than the men's version, which I'm going to show you. So I'm going to take these off, grab the men's version, put those on really quick. And these are the men's version. I have some pictures I'm going to show you. I'll go ahead and insert those in just a second so you can see them on a man's hand. But as you can see, I mean, these fit me really, really nicely. They are looser than the previous mitts that I just showed you. Let me make sure it's focusing on this for you. There we go. But they are just what I kind of thought of as men's mittens. I don't know why, but really, quite honestly, the pattern is unisex. Really, it doesn't matter. So they're just a really comfy, cozy pair of fingerless mittens that are perfect for holding a mug of something warm. They fit right on the palm of your hand where your hand touches a hot mug. It's just really, it's perfect, you guys. So I love these. They are going to be called the Firepit mitts. I am going to work up that pattern for you really quickly because I have plans to not only release the pattern but also have a knit along, and I'm going to sit down now so you can see my face as I speak to you. And we are back. Okay, so those are the Firepit mitts. It's a very simple pattern. I love them so much. They've been sitting folded up on my little table behind me here, and I have not worn them yet because I wanted to keep them nice to show you here on the podcast, and also because I need to photograph them for the pattern, so I don't want to wear them. I want them to be nice and freshly blocked for that little photo shoot. Now these are knit on Lion Brand Fisherman's Wool. It is one of my absolute favorite store-bought wool yarns because it's just really nice, sturdy yarn, kind of a rough texture. It's just great if you want something really earthy and kind of artisanal feeling, and I love this yarn for this pattern. But because I am releasing this pattern, I wanted to involve my hand-dyed yarn in the pattern because it just seems to make perfect sense to me. So I am going to be dyeing worsted weight yarn, not for this upcoming update on Friday, but for the following update. And I'm going to give you the details about that in just a second, but I am going to be dyeing a collection of solids on a beautiful merino worsted weight yarn. It is a little bit more sumptuous, a little softer than what you're going to get with fisherman's wool, but it provides you with an alternative. If you don't want something as rustic as this, the Fiber for the People yarn that I will feature in the pattern, I will have a sample knit up in that as well, and pictures, is going to provide you with a little bit more of a luxurious, sumptuous feel to the mitten. And so I thought it would just be really appropriate for my yarn to be involved in this as well, since it is a pattern that I'm going to be putting out. So let me go ahead and give you the details about all of that in a little bit more of an organized fashion. Okay. There is a shop update for Fiber for the People yarn coming this Friday, the day after Thanksgiving, which is just a couple days away from now. That's just going to be a really small shop update with some really beautiful seasonal tonals. But the following shop update, which is going to be December 1st, I'm going to be featuring actually two new bases, a bulky base and a worsted base. And then I'm also going to be featuring my Tayler's favorite base as well. But the reason why I'm going to be doing the worsted introduction on December 1st is because I wanted the yarn to be available in time for us to do the Firepit Mitts knit along. So I will be dyeing up a collection of worsted weight yarn that will be released in the shop update on December 1st that you could purchase that would be perfect for knitting the Firepit Mitts. The design, the pattern, will also be released in the Fiber for the People shop on December 1st at the shop update. So you can get your pattern, which will be free, and you can get your worsted weight yarn as well if you would choose to use Fiber for the People yarn. If you would really like to knit this in Lion Brand Fisherman's Wool, that is totally fine. You can knit it in whatever yarn you want, but I'm just providing that option because I am going to be knitting up a sample for the pattern in Fiber for the People yarn. So come to the shop update December 1st. Lots of beautiful yarn will be in the shop, plus a new bulky base, and then of course the worsted base. Get the pattern because the shop is going to be the only place you can get the pattern on December 1st. Following December 1st, it will be put on Ravelry and a free download on the Fiber for the People shop. So it's free. You can buy the yarn to go with the pattern. Now the knit along for the Firepit Mitts is going to start on December 8th. That gives you enough time to come to the update, get your pattern, get your yarn. If you are going to be using Fiber for the People yarn, have it at your home so you can start the knit along on December 8th. Now because these fly off the needles, you're not going to need a lot of time to knit a pair of these. Quite honestly, you can have a pair, depending on how fast of a knitter you are, you can have a pair of these knit in, I don't know, 1.5 sessions of some binge watching TV. They're so fast. So if you are looking to knit some of these for last minute Christmas gifts, it's really perfect for that. So December 8th is the Firepit Mitten knit along start. That's the launch of the knit along for these mitts. December 1st is the Fiber for the People yarn shop update where you can get the pattern for the first time as well as a beautiful worsted weight yarn to knit the mitts in. So hopefully that's not confusing. All of the information I'm going to put on the Ravelry page so it's nice and clear and you can understand what to do there. But the pattern will be released on December 1st at the Fiber for the People yarn shop update. The knit along will start on December 8th. and it's gonna be a lot of fun because you guys, I love these so much. I want to just keep knitting them because they're so fun to knit. It's that perfect mindless knit. It's that sweet spot for me, like we talked about in the last episode of a size 7 needle with a worsted weight yarn. It's everything, you guys. So definitely get involved. Let me know if you have any questions at all. I may have gone through this too fast, but like I said, I am going to be putting information for this up on Ravelry. If I have any updates to this particular pattern or the knit along or what have you, I will keep you notified on Ravelry, so you can check there as well. So I'm super excited, so definitely get involved. Head over to Ravelry, check it out, and we'll get started with this. It's going to be a lot of fun. So Firepit mitts, so exciting. In the last episode, I introduced a giveaway that was going to be in honor of all of you who have supported the podcast over the last several months. In order to enter the giveaway, you had to answer a question. What is your sweet spot crochet hook knitting needle / yarn weight? And I was really kind of amazed at how many responses we had. I think we had upwards of almost 300 comments. I might be wrong. But it was really an active commenting thread, and it was cool reading all of these different sweet spots that you guys have when it comes to the size of knitting needle and crochet hook plus the weight of the yarn that you like to knit with. I actually wasn't 100% certain that sweet spot was even a thing when I talked about it in the last episode, because I mentioned that my sweet spot is a size 7 with a worsted weight yarn. For whatever reason, my knitting just flies off of my needles when I'm working with that combination of yarn and needle size. So I thought I would ask that question. Was super impressed to see like how many of you actually kind of could recall your sweet spot, and to see that a lot of you had similar combinations to that worsted weight 7, 8, some 5 knitting needles. H crochet hooks and worsted weight yarn was a really common one as well. So it's really kind of a cool thing that it's actually a thing, you guys. There's a sweet spot for everyone. So anyway, that was the question. Got tons of responses, and I picked a winner. And the giveaway was going to be, or is going to be, for the lucky winner, a skein of Fiber for the People yarn in the Miss Harker colorway. This is a fall-inspired colorway that I dyed up in October to kind of go along with not only fall but Halloween. It's got this beautiful vintagey vibe to it. There's some light blush peach colors going on in there, some speckles of deep like grays and blues and greens with some pumpkin spice colors in there. It's really very beautiful. So this is the Miss Harker colorway, and it is on my Downy sock base, which is a 3-ply 100% merino yarn. It is absolutely gorgeous, really squishy. So this is going to be coming for the giveaway prize. Also by Lorelei Urto Designs. She is a jewelry designer. You can find her on Instagram. And she designs jewelry. She does not design stitch markers necessarily, but this was something she designed for the show to use as a giveaway prize, and they're gorgeous. I love them. So really beautiful. So stitch markers. And then by the lovely Tuft Woolens, I am adding into that a bar of sock soap, which is in the shape of a cute little sheep, and a hand and body balm like this. So all of these are going to be coming to the giveaway winner, and the giveaway winner is Amanda O'Connor. Thank you so much everybody for participating in the commenting thread for this giveaway. Amanda, you are the winner. So if you are watching, please shoot me an email at woolneedleshands@gmail.com to let me know you are the winner. I'll get in touch with you in some way to let you know you're the winner, just in case you don't happen to see the podcast episode. But let me know if you are watching right now. Just shoot me an email. We will get the details about how I can get this to you. Congratulations. Thank you everybody who participated in the giveaway. I am actually taking my first sip of this tea since I started podcasting, and it's delicious. It's actually cooled down a little bit so it's not so hot and steamy. I'm drinking this tea out of a new mug that I just got at Joann's craft store. It was on clearance. I don't know why everything that's Christmas decoration related goes on like super clearance before Thanksgiving. It's crazy, but it's a cute little Christmas mug. Perfect for coffee, perfect for hot cocoa. It's actually got like a wide cup, I guess, so you could have hot cocoa in this with lots of marshmallows. You could have soup out of this. It's just a really cool mug. But right now I am drinking my all-time hands down favorite hot tea. It's herbal. It is by Bigelow. It is orange and spice herbal tea. So here's the box. This is by far my all-time favorite tea. And what's really awesome about this is it's available everywhere. You can go to restaurants and they have Bigelow tea. All the stores have Bigelow tea. It's just a really common hot herbal tea. And I love it. It's the combination, and there's other orange spice or orange and spice teas out there by other tea brands, and they're good, but they're not as good as this. For whatever reason, this just does it for me. It's a beautifully balanced blend of zesty citrus and luxurious spices. And I think the reason I love this tea so much is it kind of reminds me of that mulled cider that you have around the holidays. Not just hot apple cider that you make with like a mix, but that mulled cider that you make with actual apple cider, cold pressed cider with the mulling spices. Oh gosh, it's just so good. And this just does that for me. I usually, the way that I make it, so it's a little bit richer, I guess you could say, is I do 2 to 3 tea bags, which is a lot of any herbal tea, but that's just kind of how I do it. 2 to 3 tea bags I steep in a mug of water, not a teacup, but a mug. A couple small little teaspoons of Splenda. It gives you that kind of nice, rich, spicy flavor that you're looking for in the holidays. But as you can see, if you look down in the cup, it's a real beautiful red color. It's just, it's everything, and it's super cozy. And so this is definitely my go-to tea drink during the cooler seasons of the year. So it is Bigelow orange and spice herbal tea. That's what does it for me, you guys. This is my favorite all-time herbal tea. We all love our luxury yarn, but Tiffany's the jeweler is kind of taking the cake on this one. In their flagship store in Manhattan and select stores around the country, they are offering a ball of yarn that is made entirely from spun sterling silver. It's part of a line of products that they're creating. They're taking ordinary things and making them extraordinarily valuable. So for example, they have a coffee can that is made out of sterling silver. They have some other ordinary object that's made out of 24 karat gold. It's really excessive and opulent, but it is just something that they're doing right now, and one of those things is a sterling silver spun ball of yarn, and it is going for $9,000.
Tiffany & Company has launched a new line called Everyday Objects, which includes a range of items like paper cups and tin cans. The objects are made of materials like sterling silver and gold and come with a laughable price tag. The jewelry company seems to be trolling customers with their $1,000 paperclip bookmark and $95 paper cup. Social media seems to be baffled by the collection, asking why anyone would pay $1,000 for a tin can or $9,000 for a ball of yarn.
So you definitely want to check that out and see what that's all about. Not because I think you should purchase one, because quite frankly, I think that's crazy, but because I think it's pretty interesting that the ball of yarn, which is generally a rather ordinary thing, can be put on such a pedestal where it would be made out of sterling silver spun yarn and sold for $9,000 at Tiffany's the Jewelers. So thought that was kind of interesting. Just wanted to share. Not a whole lot, not a long segment, but thought you should know that there is luxury yarn out there that is quite clearly and obviously a luxury. Annette on Ravelry, who is Net5444, asked me on the Ask Me Anything thread. She says, can anyone help me? I have some rusty colored alpaca yarn that I'd like to over dye with acid fast dye. What color would work best to over dye with? I'm thinking maybe red. So I wanted to take a second and answer this question here on the podcast because it's kind of an interesting, it's a good question, and I have an answer based on color theory. And I actually think about these kinds of things a lot when I'm dyeing yarn. I'm not necessarily about over dyeing, I don't do that very often, but when it comes to layering my dyes and layering my colors in various different colorways, I do think about this often. So I'm gonna go ahead and answer this question for you, Annette. Hopefully you're watching, so here we go. So one thing that you definitely want to have on hand whenever you're working with any kind of dye, whether you're dyeing fabric, whether you're dyeing yarn, whatever kind of dyeing that you're doing, it's really useful to have a color wheel on hand. So this kind of gives you an idea of which colors are going to pair really well together. There are some things to kind of consider. You have monochromatic colors, which is using any tint or toner shade of just one color. So you can kind of see that here when you see the various different shades of this purple color here. And then you also have your complementary colors. Complementary colors are colors that have nothing in common. They are colors that appear on opposite sides of the color wheel. They tend to provide a really strong contrast when you show them next to each other. For example, really popular complementary color pairing is red and green. Now, one of the things I know about red and green is that we really associate that with the holiday season if you celebrate Christmas, but people tend to shy away from that combination at any other point in the year because it's too reminiscent of Christmas, and because those colors together, just generally outside of the holiday season, they're not easy to see together because they are so different from one another. So when you're thinking of that rusty color red, you want to come up with an analogous color combination, or use an analogous color or analogous color to over dye, something that's going to be a little bit more harmonious. Now, when you're using a color wheel, analogous or analogous colors, however you want to say it, these are colors that appear adjacent to the particular color you're talking about. So for example, we're talking about in this situation kind of a rusty color. So your analogous colors are going to be colors that fall on either side of that color wheel of that color. Those are the colors that are going to be more harmonious when you are over dyeing. So that's kind of maybe a little bit convoluted, but just know that when you're using a color wheel, if you are over dyeing, you want to try and stick to the colors that are adjacent to that chosen color on the color wheel, because they are harmonious, they are pleasant to look at, they tend to have so much in common that when you dye them over one another, they will bring out various different characteristics in the new color. Whereas when you're dyeing over with a complementary color that have nothing in common, you're going to tend to get a more muddy result, which, I mean, could be beautiful. Who knows? You have to give it a shot. But that might not be exactly what you're going for. My advice to you, Annette, is to take a little snip of your yarn, just a small amount of yarn that really isn't going to matter to your skein too much, and just test it with food coloring. Add some food coloring to a little bit of water, create a little bit of a dye solution, add your yarn and see what happens, because that's going to give you a little bit of an idea when you add a pigment over what you already have there, what happens to your final color. So that would be my advice to you, but definitely those of you that are playing around with dyeing yarn or dyeing fabric or whatever it is, definitely have a color wheel on hand, because that little bit of color theory, which I am no pro, it's just I've learned from experience, but that little bit of color theory can go a long way when it comes to doing things like over dyeing or figuring out what colors go together. I think this is probably a milestone in my entire podcasting career, you know, even though I started less than a year ago. I have 4 FOs to share with you guys today, which are finished objects. The elephant in the room is sitting on top of my head, so you probably have noticed that I am wearing one of my finished objects. This is my Simple Pleasures hat by Pearl Soho. It was on the needles on the last episode, and it is off the needles now and on my head, and I love it so much. And there is not a chance in the world that I'm taking it off, because I have no idea what's happening to my hair underneath there. This is a picture that I showed on Instagram of my finished objects, so you can kind of see it laid out. So here's a picture of the Simple Pleasures hat by Pearl Soho. I talked about in the last episode that I did do a few modifications, or I did make a few modifications to the hat. Number one, I didn't use the yarn called for in the pattern because I'm in a stash busting mood right now, and I had some yarn on hand that worked really well for this, and you can read a little bit more about that on the Instagram post or in the last episode. But I also chose not to do the double brim for this. I just did a regular single brim, which was about 2 inches wide, so you can kind of see it's about 2 inches wide here, and then I continued on with the hat, and it is just the most perfect slouchy lightweight beanie. I love it so much, and it was super simple. But one caveat to that is that when you're knitting this with a really fine almost lace weight yarn combined with a mohair and silk yarn that has a really heavy halo. It's not as simple as just doing a basic stockinette stitch. You have to kind of pay attention to what you're doing because number one, the combination is still very, very fine, and you have that halo of the mohair there that kind of makes it a little bit harder to see what you're doing. But ultimately, overall, it is a really simple knit. Super, super satisfying. I love the finished product. It is really comfortable to wear. It's cozy. It'll keep my head warm, but it's not too hot. Like, I'm wearing this indoors right now and I'm really comfortable. It's not too hot at all. I just know that if I were to take it off, I just don't know what's going on under there, so I'm not completely comfortable with doing that. But I love it so much. It's a perfect little accessory to wear with any wardrobe because of the color combination here. As I mentioned before, I combined this pretty blushing peach color mohair yarn with the gray that you see in the brim here, and it made a really beautiful combination. So I'm really excited about that. This is the Simple Pleasures hat by Pearl Soho. If you're looking for something easy, a gift for someone, definitely check this out. It's just a great pattern. It's super easy and well written, and I love the finished product. I also, and I started working on these after the last episode, so they flew off my needles. It wasn't even a thing. That's why you haven't even seen these yet, unless you are following me on Instagram, which you have seen these, but I am so excited to share this with you guys. They are the pattern comes from Yarnspirations. I believe somebody from the Bernat design team designed the pattern. It's featured on Yarnspirations. It is called the Family Work Socks, and I'll tell you a little bit about why it's called that in a second, but I know that when you see them, the first thing that's going to come to mind is Sock Monkey socks, which is kind of there's an interesting bit of history I'm going to share with you about that in just a second. But here they are. They are a beautiful, like, I'm so in love with these. It's absolutely ridiculous. They don't fit my sock blockers because my sock blockers are for my actual foot size, and these are obviously supposed to be a little bit larger. So they're super baggy and chunky, but on my feet, they fit just the way they ought to. They're just like a sweater for your feet, like a chunky, oversized sweater for your feet, and I love them so much. So this, when you knit these, they are knit with a worsted weight yarn. This is Patton's Classic Wool Worsted. I had a bunch of this in my stash. I have so much of this in my stash, which you'll come to realize in a moment, but it's another one of my favorite store-bought yarns. Patton's Classic Worsted, Lion Brand Fisherman's Wool. I mean, whenever I go to like Joann's or Michael's or Hobby Lobby, and Hobby Lobby I don't think carries. I haven't had much luck at Hobby Lobby, but Michael's and Joann's both carry Patton's. Joann's carries Lion Brand Fisherman's Wool, but whenever I see them in stock, it's just a guilty pleasure for me. I tend to buy way more than I could possibly do anything with. But anyway, that's what these are knit in, and I love them so much. I'm going to show you my Instagram photo so you can kind of see laid out what they look like, and also on my feet. But you guys, they are just the perfect cozy sock for wearing around the house when it's cold. They slip on easily. It's like a boyfriend sock. Like, I'm telling you, it's like a boyfriend sock. It fits my foot, but it wears like a boyfriend sock, and I love them so much. So these are the Family Work Socks. They come, like I said, on Yarnspirations. I believe they're designed by somebody in the Barocco design team. There are sizes ranging from a small child to a large male adult, and they're so easy. I had these on and off my needles, I want to say, in like 2 days. In considering I have, you know, other stuff that I do throughout the day and a toddler to take care of, I managed to just knock these out. Plus I'm working on other things as well, so that's really super fast. But here they are, both of them together, the Family Work Socks. I am knitting these in the Patton's Classic Wool. They ask for a Bernat yarn, and I just I couldn't find that, plus I just already knew I had this and I'd rather bust my stash with these. So love these so much. Highly recommend these for a last minute Christmas gift, or for not even a last minute Christmas gift, because right now I think if you're knitting small projects for Christmas, it's not even considered last minute yet. These are perfect. You can knit one for like every member of your family, but I'm obsessed. Absolutely obsessed with these. They've been on my feet constantly since they came off my needles. I love them so much. So definitely check out the pattern. It's super easy. Like I said, it flies off your needles. It's really, it's within that sweet spot for me when it comes to the yarn weight and needle size combination, and I love them. Actually, in fact, you'll see in my works in progress segment that I am actually working on another pair of these right now. I decided I would cast on another pair, and I'll talk about that more in a minute. So these are the family work socks. So let me tell you a little bit about family work socks and why they're so reminiscent of sock monkey socks. So in the mid-1800s, knitting machines that could actually make knitted socks were invented and became popular for dock workers, laborers, farmers, factory workers. They had socks made for them from these knitting machines, and they were typically just your basic gray wool sock. Before that, and even at that time, not everybody had socks. So when a knitting machine was invented that especially made socks, that was a really big deal. So these socks that were made on the knitting machines for these factory workers, also known as work socks, were the first socks to become, or some of the first socks to become, commercially available for anybody to purchase. Around this same time, for whatever reason, monkeys were really popular, and so somebody had the idea that out of a pair of work socks you could fashion a stuffed monkey toy. Now fast forward to the Great Depression, you have toys which are really hard to come by. People can't afford them. People also can't afford the fabric to make homemade toys as easily, and so work socks were used again for creating the famous sock monkey. Fast forward just a little bit further to World War II, we have in Rockford, Illinois, the famous red heel sock that we're all very familiar with, which is used for making the traditional sock monkey, became popular. So people started buying the Rockford red heel socks and making sock monkeys out of those because they came to find that it worked perfectly for your traditional sock monkey. But what came first was the work sock, which, as we remember the work sock, it is just your basic gray woolen sock with a contrasting usually white heel, cuff, and toe. But the Rockford red heel version had a red heel, and then later it was a red stripe around the upper portion of the leg. So the sock came first, called the work sock, and then the sock monkey came after that. So when we see socks like this, a lot of people tend to think that, hey, that's a sock monkey sock. And yes, you are right. These are what you would see when people would make sock monkeys. The only difference is that this has a white heel, which was pretty traditional for a work sock, and the sock monkey socks, or the Rockford, Illinois Rockford knit work socks, had the red heel. The work sock actually came first, and then the sock monkey came later when people started realizing that they could create little stuffed monkeys with these socks. So kind of a little interesting bit of knitting history, I guess you could say, when it comes to what came first. And when I see these, I definitely do think of a sock monkey sock. But it's kind of cool to know the history that goes behind this and why these are actually called the family work socks, because that's where the style of sock comes from. So the more you know. Okay, so one of the works in progress I have going on right now is a Nolita Sweater by We Are Knitters. I actually have a piece of this off of my needles, but I wouldn't really call it a hoe necessarily because there's still more to go. It's not just half done. And if you're not familiar with the We Are Knitters Nolita Sweater, here's a picture of what it looks like from the We Are Knitters website. It's just a gorgeous, super, super chunky base crew neck sweater. It's knit in pieces, and that was something that was intriguing to me because it was going to be the first pieced sweater that I would be knitting, and I don't know if I made the right choice choosing this as my first pieced garment, but whatever, I wanted to knit one pretty badly. It's been something that I've been wanting to do for a little while, primarily because of the amazing squishy yarn. So okay, anyway, here is my first, this is the front of the Nolita sweater. I have it in half right now. So here's the front of the Nolita sweater. As I'm sitting here, I can kind of like hold this up so you can see, and if I stand you can kind of get an idea of how it would fit. So this is the front here. It comes all the way out over here. If I pull it to my body, it's right there. But it's going to definitely be a chunky sweater. It hits me on my stomach, especially now because I have a little bit of a belly going. It hits me just below, actually no, about like 4 inches below my belly button right now because of my body shape at the moment. So I don't know. I mean, I really don't know what this is going to look like on me considering that I'm pregnant. If it's going to make me look like a Yeti, which it definitely has the potential to do that just by itself. But, you know, a cute Yeti. A cute pregnant Yeti. I don't know if that's a good thing. I don't even know if I should be comparing my pregnant self to a Yeti at all in any terms. But anyway, that's kind of something that came to mind when I was imagining wearing this while I'm pregnant, which I'm hoping I have a chance to do that. I should have this done way before the end of March. But anyway, this is the front piece of the Nolita sweater, and I am working on the second part, or I guess the back panel, and it is living right now because I needed the extra space. This is my Eileen bag that I knit this summer. Love this bag. So my Nolita sweater is living in my Eileen bag. It's the perfect bag for this sweater because it's huge. And here is my back panel on my needle. So I'm getting there. You know, I really thought that when I received this and started working on it, I thought it would just fly. And we talked about that sweet spot of yarn weight and knitting needle size and about how your knitting just flies off the needles. And you guys, this is so far away from my sweet spot. You're using, shoot, I think these are size 25 knitting needles. It's a 15mm needle. Really, really thick, like, needle. You can see just right there, like how like thick or wide, I guess I should say, these needles are. Plus, I mean, you're working with a really heavy, dense, beautiful Peruvian Highland wool yarn here. Oh gosh, the yarn is just absolutely scrumptious. So that's gorgeous. But when you knit with this, like I mentioned previously, it's kind of a workout. There's lots of movement going on. There's a lot of physicality involved in this particular knitting. Not only are you working with straight needles, which I'm not a huge fan of straight needles for any project because I like having the cord of a double point, or the cord of a circular needle to hold the weight of the fabric, as opposed to having all of the weight kind of pulling on one end of your straight needle. So not only are you knitting on straight needles, but you have a lot of weight that's being produced by the knitted fabric here. And so it just, I mean, there's just a lot of movement going on with this. So it doesn't fly off the needles by any means. And also, it's tiring, so you put it down eventually because you're just tired of working on it. Whereas something small, like the mittens, you can kind of work on them effortlessly for long periods of time and you don't get worn down. So that's, I think, why this is just not flying off the needles as fast as I thought it would because of the big needles and the big yarn. But I love it anyway because I really love working with this yarn. It's just such a sumptuous yarn, a beautiful single ply. It has a nice firm twist so it doesn't shed like it could. It sheds a little bit if you're wearing dark colors, but it doesn't shed nearly as bad as other, you know, loose twisted yarns that are single ply, I guess you could say, and so I really like that. And also that kind of tells me that it's not going to pill as readily, which is nice. I recommend it just because it's a really fun garment to have, so this could be a really good product knit. I don't know if I would recommend it as a process knit. If you aren't a seasoned knitter, if you're a new knitter, definitely recommend this for the process because it teaches you about sweater construction. But the process, I can't say is the most relaxing. So for a product knit, sure, go for it. It's great. Plus the yarn is gorgeous. But I don't know, ultimately I'm excited to have it off the needles because I really want to have it to wear this season. So that is the Nolita sweater by We Are Knitters. So as I mentioned earlier, I had a huge stockpile of Patton's Classic Worsted, and that is this right here. So this is one of the skeins that I have of Patton's Classic Worsted wool. It is 100% wool. It is not a superwash. It's a really, really nice, hardy wool. And I have a bunch of this, and I had a ton of it in gray. And I was looking at one of my knitting magazines that I had kind of stored from, I think, what is this? I think this was last season. So this is Knit Today, which is a UK-based magazine. They also put out Simply Knitting, if you're familiar with that. But I had this magazine on hand, and I was just kind of flipping through it, looking at some various different things. Because, you know, I don't have enough works in progress going on right now. I wanted to seek out more because that's the logical thing to do. And so I did that. And I actually found a sweater that is just, it's a really cute sweater, really basic. I mean, pretty much as basic as the Nolita sweater, but on a finer yarn, that I just loved the way it looked because I want in my wardrobe a really nice, roomy, spacious gray knit sweater with no cabling, no texture other than that stockinette stitch. I don't know, I'm a sucker for that. I love cables, but I also love the look of an oversized drop shoulder, basic crew neck sweater. And so I found one in this magazine, and this one has lots of stripes. So this is kind of like a stash busting sweater, I guess you could say. And the sweater here calls for Cascade 220, and Cascade 220 is a beautiful worsted weight yarn that's put out by the Cascade Yarn Company. I don't have any Cascade 220 on hand. I've had it before, but I don't have any in my stash. But I do know that Patton's Classic Worsted Yarn is a really perfect, ideal substitute when you're using a store-bought yarn, and it comes in lots of different fun colors, much like Cascade 220 does. And so when I saw this, I thought, oh, you know, I could pick up several balls of Patton's Classic Worsted and I could make this striped sweater. But then I'm thinking, like, yes, I love the look of this. I love the stripes. It's beautiful. But it's not that classic, you know, wear with everything sweater that I was looking for that reason. Otherwise, if this were just a solid color, I love the style of this sweater. You have that drop shoulder. It's a loose fitting sweater. It's perfect. It has a nice kind of shallow, tightly knit ribbed border. It's not a very deep border. It's kind of shallow. And I love that. That was ultimately one of the things that I was seeking out in a gray knit sweater. And quite honestly, it was one of those things where I was thinking I would just end up buying something like that because I would like to have it in my wardrobe. But then I think I'm a knitter. I shouldn't be doing that when it's something as simple as this. I should at least give it a shot knitting it on my own. So I figured I would just look at the pattern and forego the striping process and just pick up what I needed in worsted weight yarn using Patton's Classic Wool because I love it so much. Or I even thought about using the Fisherman's Wool by Lion Brand, but I wanted it to be gray. Well, lo and behold, in my stash, I actually had a ton of Patton's Classic Worsted in this gray color. So here it is again. This is just kind of a deep gray color here in the Patton's Classic Worsted. It's a really great quality wool for a store-bought wool. I love the twist. It's a nice tight twist. But anyway, I had lots of this. So I checked to see if the yardage was right. I had 6 balls of this. So I'm really confident that this is going to be just what I need. And I get to bust a ton of yarn out of my stash. And so that's exciting. So that is actually what is one of the things, a really long-winded introduction to that piece. So that's what's one of the things that's on my needles right now. So as you can see, it's just your basic gray piece. I can't even say this is any part of a sweater, even though it's the front of a sweater. But that's kind of what I've got going on here, and I love it. I really love, I love the color. I love the contrast of this tightly knit rib stitched border right here and the stockinette stitch. Now this is knit on a size 3 and this is knit on a size 8. So you get a really cool contrast here, a nice tight knit. Now sometimes when you knit a ribbed border on the same needle size as the stockinette body piece, you get this lip, this like bump in your border. It doesn't lay nice and flat, and quite honestly, in order for it to lay flat, you have to go down several needle sizes for the ribbed border, in my opinion, in my experience with other, not necessarily sweaters, but other pieces that have a ribbed border and then a stockinette stitch body. If your stockinette stitch is on a needle size that's the same as your ribbed border, you're just not going to get that nice flush kind of transition between the two. So that's what I really liked about this too, was that ribbed border, you don't have that weird lip that's typically created. You can see that it's a really nice, smooth transition from the border to the stockinette body. So that's what's going on here. It is, and what is the name? Let's see. I don't even think this has like a special, they call it the Stripe-a-thon sweater. So this is in Knit Today issue 121, and it is called the Stripe-a-thon sweater. But I am not striping the sweater, so it is just my gray-a-thon sweater. Whatever, it doesn't matter. But it is knit in pieces, and I'm kind of excited about that. As Michelle Wong would say, a sweater knit in pieces provides more structure, kind of giving it a more tailored look as opposed to a sweater knit all in one piece, which I love top-down sweaters that are knit all in one piece for their shape and their ease when it comes to knitting them. But I get that having something knit in pieces and sewn together provides more structure. So I'm excited to have 2 sweaters going right now that kind of have that feature, I guess you could say. So that is what this is going to be. It's not very exciting right now, but I'm loving knitting this. It's a size 8 with a worsted weight yarn, which is pretty much spot on my sweet spot of a size 7 in worsted weight yarn, so it just flies. My husband and I are watching this show on Hulu right now called Taboo. It's actually an FX show that has Tom Hardy in it, and it's really interesting, super intriguing, and there's something about the show that I'm just tinking away with my needles rapidly, and so it just seems to fly. I think I started this, not last night, I started it the previous night, and only worked on maybe the rib border, and then the rest of this was done last night while we watched Taboo. So fun, a lot of fun. That is from Knit Today, the Stripe-a-thon sweater, and it's from issue 121 if you're interested. And this is actually sharing sweater space in my bag, my Eileen bag that I knit with my Nolita sweater, because there's that much space in that bag. So this next pattern is super, super simple. There's not much of a pattern really here, but I stumbled upon it on Pinterest and the picture was just tantalizing with how beautiful and chunky it was. And so I clicked on the link and it takes you to Bromfield's Knitwear, which is a place to get really simplistic, classic knitting patterns. And this particular pattern is just a ribbed, chunky cowl from Bromfield's. So this is what I have so far. And like you guys, this is the easiest thing in the entire world. But there's something about where my mind is right now in knitting that I just want simple stuff. Plus, I really, really love really chunky cowls like this. This one I'm planning on using up all the yarn I have for this, and I'm excited to kind of share with you where I got the yarn and what it is. But as you can see, it's already nice and lofty the way it is, but I want this to be at least 3 times this deep, so that when I put it on, and you'll have to excuse me if I keep looking over here, I'm looking at the screen, but when you put it on, it would be really nice and stacked so it can scrunch down. It's super stretchy because it's a rib, so you can pull it over your shoulders. It's just kind of a really versatile cowl. Now, I prefer cowls like this to scarves. I'm not a big scarf wearer, not because I don't like scarves, but because the simplicity of just throwing a cowl on and having it be the way you want it is just ideal for me. There's something about wearing a cowl that I just love so much. And I have a cowl that I knit a long time ago when I first started knitting, and I'll pop a picture in here. And I wear this sucker all the time. Every winter season, this is something I go to all the time because it's so cozy and comfy. I can wash it. It's made out of Thick and Quick by Lion Brand yarn, so it's washable. It's like 80% acrylic. I'm not really sure, but it's super, super easy. It was just a pattern that I think I came up with on my own, but I love that so much, but I wear it all the time. It's kind of starting to look like I wear it all the time. So I thought, hey, let's work up just really quick something I can wear when the weather really gets cold, which is happening pretty quickly. And so that's kind of what this is. So this is something that was inspired by the design on Bromfield's. It's the same stitch count, the same pattern essentially, but it's just a knit one, purl one rib pattern for so many stitches around, and then you just knit it until it's as high as you want it, and I love it. I love it so much. It's knit with a super, super bulky 80-20 blend. So it's 80% wool and 20% acrylic yarn, and I want to tell you where I got this yarn, but I'm going to give you a close-up of the piece first. So here is kind of a close-up of the fabric. You can see just how like sumptuous and squishy that is. Ugh, I love it so much. The yarn is actually a yarn that's been put out by Wool and the Gang. So if you are familiar with We Are Knitters, you are probably familiar with Wool and the Gang. They are a company that does something similar, but they have their own unique take on super, super chunky knitwear designs, kind of like your Loopy Mango and whatnot. So this is a Wool and the Gang produced yarn, especially for Joann fabrics, and it is called the Gang Collection. So this is the yarn label, and this is the yarn. And you guys, it is gorgeous. When I was walking through the aisles at Joann's and I saw this, like, I definitely stopped dead in my tracks and was like, wait a minute. Like, really, am I seeing this correctly? Because Wool and the Gang is like, I don't know, they're really cool. just like We Are Knitters. It's like they're really cool. You see them on Instagram. They have like the coolest photos, kind of like that exclusive feeling. They have an exclusive feeling to them. And so when I saw this, I'm like, wow, Joann's just got really, really cool. I thought Joann's was cool to begin with, but now Joann's is like super cool because they're associated with Wool and the Gang, and I love Wool and the Gang. Whatever, you know, now I just sound silly. But anyway, I saw this and I got super excited because it's a beautiful single ply. It's a loose twist, so it does have a tendency to shed a little bit, but it's gorgeous. It has a nice halo, plus it's a little bit more affordable, but you get 80% of this beautiful wool. And this is in the Sand Trooper beige color. It is 150 grams, 66 yards. Oh, I have to say, I'm sorry, it's 70% wool, 30% acrylic. Not a huge difference, but I love it so much. I was so excited to see this color especially. I love these like sandy neutral colors. They have a little bit of almost like clay vibe to them, I guess you could say. Anyway, saw this yarn, I snagged 3 balls of it, having this particular pattern in mind. I actually had started knitting this on the plum colored Woolies Thick and Quick that I was using for my aubergine chunky sweater a long time ago that I don't have anymore because I ripped it out and that's where all that yarn was coming from. So I came home and I pulled out what I had worked on so far with that and started it with this because I love this so much. I think each ball is 15 bucks, which is really not that bad. It was 25% off though when I got there. Plus I had an additional Joann's coupon because they're amazing and take tons of coupons. So I picked it up and I'm really excited that I did because you guys, it's beautiful. It feels so luxurious for the cost. It's a good composition. It's not a ton of acrylic, so you're not going to sweat in this. And then if you do have any issues with acrylic, then, you know, whatever. I definitely think it's just a really nicely done yarn and a great quality for a store-bought yarn. And there is absolutely, in my opinion, nothing wrong with buying your yarn for your knitting projects from craft stores. Absolutely nothing at all. So, because sometimes you find your gems, you know, my Patton's Classic Worsted, my Fisherman's Wool, and this. So I'm really, really excited about this. So this is the Gang collection by Wool and the Gang, and you should be able to find it at Joann's. It's only at Joann's, I believe. It's just something that they're doing right now with Joann's. It comes in about, I think, 6 colors. There's a really beautiful festive red color right now. But that is what I am knitting my cowl out of, and I actually need to add a new ball right now. So this is what I get from 1 ball of this yarn, and it does shed a little bit, so keep that in mind, I guess, because I'm wearing it so close to my face that might be an issue. But this is 1 ball, so I have 2 more, so you can kind of imagine where this will go when there's 2 more balls worth of knitted fabric. So I'm really excited to have this off the needles in time for the season. We are actually heading to Utah right after Christmas to stay in a house that was rented by our family for the holiday, or for the New Year's. So it'll be nice and cold and snowy up there, so this is going to be perfect for that. So that is my Brome Fields cowl. I will link to it in Ravelry in the show notes if you are interested, and that is Wool and the Gang collection yarn for Joann's. Last but not least, when it comes to current works in progress that I'm actively working on right now, because Lord knows I've got so many works in progress just hanging around this house in various different places. But these are the ones that I'm working on actively. I made that sound way worse than it actually is. I think there's a basket next to the couch on the bottom level of a coffee table that has some nicely packaged knitting projects, and then there's a basket in our 3rd bedroom with some knitting. It's not as bad as I'm making it sound. I'm not that crazy, but I mean, as you probably know, it's excessive. But these are the ones I'm working on now, and so flavor of the week, if you will. But anyway, my last work in progress is another pair of the family work socks. So I had, like I mentioned, I have lots of Patton's Classic Worsted in my stash because I love it so much, and you can never have enough of a yarn that you love so much. But I don't have a lot of it in that light gray color that I used for these. So I actually had only 1 ball of each of these colors, almost like I knew I was going to be knitting a sock like this. with that yarn. So I had just what I needed to make these, and there's not enough left of this gray color to make another pair. There's definitely enough of the white and the red, but not of the gray. So I decided I was going to do another pair, a little bit smaller this time. So not because these are too big, but because these are big, and I wanted to go for a sock that was more along the lines of a boot sock, as opposed to a really nice cozy sweater slipper sock. So these are my next pair of family work socks. I've only started one so far. I just started this yesterday. So this is what I've got so far, and I love it. I love it because I just love this pattern. I'm still trying to decide if I love the combination that I chose here. So I chose a darker gray, the white stripe, and then here for the foot, the body of the sock, I'm using this navy blue color here. So it's going to be kind of a more masculine color combination for these socks, but it doesn't matter. That's whatever. They're going to be cute and cozy, and I wanted something a little bit smaller. So this is a 36 stitch sock, whereas my other socks were 40 stitches. So this is going to fit a little bit closer to the leg. I could essentially wear it with my boots if I wanted to, and I think it would be really cute with a pair of boots kind of sticking out of the top of the boot like this. So that's kind of what I have going on right now, and I'm really loving it. And these are living in a little bag, which is, I'm calling it a project bag, but you guys, this is like one of those purchases that you make that you just want to scream it from the rooftops, even though it's probably only special to like me and then you guys out there who appreciate this kind of thing. But this is the project bag it's in, and looking at this, like I'm seeing it on the screen right now, it looks so luxurious and glamorous. But you guys, I got this at Target in the, they have like a clearance bin section when you walk in the store during the holidays or anytime really, where you can get things from like $1 to $5. And these suckers were $3. They had a bunch of them left, $3. It's got a really cute gold zipper, a little faux leather tab, and then this awesome festive flannel. I mean, this is like a flannel plaid print, and I love this. It's perfect for, you know, a smaller project. I put these completely in there when I was working on those, and now I have my current work socks in here. You can get your needles, you can get your balls of yarn or your ball of yarn, your pattern, all in there, and it's just perfect. So this was $3 at Target, and I think you can probably still pick this up at your local Target right now because of the holidays and what have you. So yeah, really excited about this project bag. And I love on Instagram taking like my photos on Instagram and having kind of this peeking through in the photo because it provides a really cool color contrast to whatever project I'm featuring. But yeah, I love it. And I think like those of you out there that love to sew project bags, this is just such an easy, versatile design for an envelope style project bag. And it's, I mean, it's made out of just like your, like felt polyester cotton blend. So I don't know, super simple, but like I love project bag buys like that. $3 for a really super cute project bag. So that is it for works in progress. So let's go ahead and move on. We have lots more to talk about in this episode of the podcast. So thank you for sticking with it if you guys have made it this far into the podcast, but let's keep going. As I mentioned in the beginning of the show, Fiber for the People Yarn is going to be having a shop update on Friday at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. It is a small shop update. Not a lot is going into the shop, just some seasonal tonals that I have been inspired to dye for various different reasons and various different inspirations. But I wanted to have a little small shop update following Thanksgiving with a few different tonal colorways. Now, I do not have all of those colorways ready to share with you now. There's a few that are out hanging to dry and a few that I still need to dye, but I have a few that I'm going to show you right now. A couple of them are Lucky Strike colorways and a couple of them are actual tonals that I'll be featuring in the shop. So nothing super elaborate happening here. These are not heavily speckled variegated yarns. These are tonal colors, and I am super excited about this because this is actually one of the first updates where I've had tonals for sale for the sake of having tonals. I do always have some tonals in the shop. And when I say tonal colors, I'm talking about not solids, colors that kind of have a slight variegation in tone. If we're talking about the color wheel, like we talked about earlier, tonal colors are like your yarn representations of these sections of the color wheel. They are yarns, they are skeins that contain various tones of a single color. And I love doing these because I love the method that I use to achieve these tonals. So I'm going to show you something a little bit more neutral right now. I was sketching up some ideas for some winter tonals, and the one that came to mind was a frosty, sandy gray colorway, something like that. And it is really hard to achieve that at the tone that I was looking for, but I think I kind of managed to get what I wanted. So this, and it's going to look like I'm holding up bare yarn, but the nuances in this are really subtle but very beautiful. So this is going to be in the shop on Friday. This is called Fog. And what I love about this is it has a really subtle kind of straw color. There are some blushes coming through here, blushing gray colors, I guess you could say, but then there are also streaks of gray coming throughout here. A beautiful winter frosty neutral color happening here, and it's I love it so much. It's absolutely gorgeous. It reminds me not only of like winter fog, but if you can imagine being outside in a very snowy, wintry setting where there's an overcast sky, but you can see just enough sun shining through that overcast sky, it creates a little bit of a tan glow over everything. That's kind of what I think about when I think of this colorway and what kind of inspired this colorway. So this is Fog. This is on my, right now that I'm holding up right now, is on my 4-ply MCN base, merino cashmere nylon. It's 400 yards, 100 grams. It's beautiful, soft and scrumptious. It will also be on my loft base, and on my loft base you can actually see more of that straw color and those gray streaks coming through. I love seeing how the colors play on the various different yarn bases. So here is Loft, here is my MCN, and they're gorgeous. So this will be in the shop on Friday. A little bit more on the punchy side, I have another colorway coming to the shop. This is Mulled Wine. It's a beautiful wine inspired color. Let's see if we can get it. There we go. With tones of deeper purples, lighter purples, reds, some deeper wine colors throughout here. Again, just various tones of the same color family playing together here in layers. And I really love it. You can kind of see and hear the various tones that I have going on over here. When I think about tonals that I would like to do, I really put a lot of thought into the color family that I want to work with. And here I was thinking of a purpley wine color family that I wanted to go with, something festive like a mulled wine color, and that's kind of what I came up with. And so we are going to have it on that 4-ply MCN, which is the top, and my 75-25 loft base, which is the bottom. You can tell that it is a little bit more muted and subtle on the MCN than it is on the loft, but that's just the nature of how these dye up on various different yarn bases. So we have mulled wine here, and that's going to be in the shop as well. Also, you can't have holiday tonals without having something in the green color family. I wanted something that reminded you of a new pine sapling, a brand new pine growth where the leaves of the pine or the needles on the pine tree are super bright green and vibrant. And so that is what we have here. So this is called New Pine. And it is in the green color family, obviously, but you can see there are various different tones happening in here. We have some more mossy tones, some more chartreuse tones, and then your deeper foresty green colors going on in there as well. So this is New Pine, and it will be in the shop on Friday as well. So we have our 75-25 loft base here, and we have our 4-ply MCN base here, and they're so soft and beautiful. I love them so much. So you can find those in the shop. Now onto the Lucky Strikes that will be in the shop. Now, I've talked about Lucky Strikes in the past. You can check out more about what my Lucky Strike colors are if you head over to the fiberforthepeopleYarn.com website, click on the blog tab at the top. I have one article right now that talks about how I produce my Lucky Strike colors, but just know they are a one-of-a-kind colorway, and the way that they are produced is really interesting, and it provides you with a really beautiful tonal and sometimes variegated color, but most of the time it's a tonal representation of the color on the yarn. So the first one I'm going to show you is this really fun nude neutral spicy color, and I say spicy because there are splashes of kind of like a cinnamon red color going throughout. This is my gingerbread Lucky Strike, so I'm calling this one gingerbread because it has that soft baked gingerbread color to it, plus with those reds kind of happening throughout, which you can kind of see a little bit. I think you can probably see that in there. It's just, I don't know, it just really, as soon as I saw it skeined up, I knew gingerbread, absolutely, hands down. So this is going to be gingerbread, a Lucky Strike. It is only available on my 75/25 loft base, and it's beautiful, absolutely gorgeous. And I really love the way it pairs with the fog colorway. If you're going for a really, really neutral palette, it's really pretty together with fog. Here, it also pairs really, really well with that spiced, or excuse me, with that mulled wine colorway as well. They play together nicely. But I mean, honestly, it could go with anything. It could also go with the new pine colorway as well. So that is gingerbread. It will be in the shop on my 75/25 loft base on Friday. My next Lucky Strike was... So in my previous episode, I showed you guys a tip for mixing liquid dye stock, and I used a particular dye there to create that little sample of liquid dye stock. I had a Lucky Strike color going, and I decided I was just going to go ahead and use up that dye stock because it was a really small amount. I didn't have an actual plan for it at the time, so I added it in to the pot with my Lucky Strike, and this is the color that I achieved, and it is definitely a real warm, almost like a spring-summer color, but right now with persimmons out in the markets to buy, it's kind of perfect for that. I want to say this is a spicy orange color, but this is called Persimmon, and it's the only one that's going to be in the shop. This is the absolutely only one. It's on my Downy sock base, which is a 3-ply, 100% superwash merino, squishy, beautiful yarn. But this is going to be called Persimmon, or it is called Persimmon, and it will be in the shop on Friday as a Lucky Strike one-of-a-kind skein. So there's that. This also looks really beautiful if you don't mind pairing or knitting with 2 separate yarn bases, which I have no issue with that at all. I don't think that that's even an issue as long as they're the same weight. It looks really nice with the gingerbread color. It's kind of a fun, warm combination. But I think the pairing, actually, it pairs really well with a few other colors also. So that is Persimmon Lucky Strike. And then my last skein that I have to share with you guys today, even though there are going to be more, keep posted, sign up for the newsletter, check out Instagram. That's where you can get the most up-to-date look at what's going to be in the shop updates. My last is, oh gosh, it's so gorgeous, you guys. This is called Raspberry Mousse. My husband named that one for me, and I think it's just perfect. So here is Raspberry Mousse. And I love this absolutely so much. I love the frosty nature of this color. This, like I said, is a Lucky Strike. It's definitely a beautiful tonal, you know, variety happening here. You have your darker mauve colors and then your more muted mauve colors with, you know, bits of the white kind of showing through to give it that frosty look to it. But yeah, oh, you guys, I love this so much. So this is called Raspberry Mousse. It is on my 4-ply MCN. It is also a one-of-a-kind. This is the only skein that will be in the shop. So if you love this, definitely snag it while you can. It's gorgeous, and it pairs beautifully with my mulled wine. Like, oh, look at that, they were made for each other. This one was actually made from bits of this one, so no wonder. But there we are. That's what we're going to be having so far, what I'm showing you right now. There are more colors coming. I think I'm going to have 2 more tonal colors added to the shop for Friday's update. Little small update, so things will go very fast. So if you're interested, definitely mark your calendars, be there right on time, get what you want, and enjoy it. And then also things that are going to be, there are other things that will be in this shop at that time that will be marked down a little bit for Black Friday to celebrate that shopping event, I guess you could say. But anyway, that's what we have going on in store. And also don't forget, you can buy gift cards for Fiber for the People. They're actually gift codes. It's a shopping code that will be valued at various different denominations that you can choose in the shop. So if you are buying a gift code for somebody in the holiday so they can come and buy yarn from Fiber for the People, that's the way that you can do that. So don't forget to check that out as well. Ending Thursday is the coupon code Hungry for Yarn. So right now, up until the end of Thursday at midnight, you can use the code Hungry for Yarn at checkout and get 15% off of your entire purchase, only until Thursday at the end of the day. So do that now, because Friday, when the shop update comes, that code will no longer work. So for this segment of the goods, I'm not going to tell you guys about a product I've seen, but I want to talk to you guys a little bit of a pattern that I know is out there, and I don't know what it's called, so I have a little bit of help with that, but I wanted to just share this with you. So my best friend, Lauren, who lives in California, gifted me a while back these adorable, and you'll have to pardon me because they're not pristine and brand new, I've washed these several times, but these adorable little crocheted circle face scrubbies, as she calls them. So they kind of look like they're little crocheted circles. You can see them here. Pretty simple from what I know about crochet, and she's knit them for me out of, I believe, Karen cotton, just like your basic cotton yarn, which is great because that's just such a durable, good cotton yarn to work with for things like washcloths and things like this. But that's all they are. They're these little crocheted rings, and I love them so much. Now, I know if you are a crocheter, you're looking at something like this and you know probably exactly how to do this. I don't think it's a very complicated pattern, and from what Lauren says, it's really not a very complicated pattern. Now, I'm not a crocheter, so I can't speak about this from an expert's point of view. But I do have some help from Lauren herself. She agreed to do a little video clip where she talked a little bit about the pattern, and she actually gave a little demonstration on how to crochet these little guys. But let me tell you a little bit about why these are so special. They make the absolute most perfect face scrubby for when you're washing your face, or if you are the type that likes to use a cold cream instead of a water face wash, you like to apply your cold cream and then wipe it off. They're perfect for that. They're reusable, so they're not wasteful. They come out of the wash just as great as they went in, so they're very, very durable. But another thing that I've been using these for, in addition to like using them as a face scrubby, is a lip exfoliator. So this sounds kind of crazy, but I like to exfoliate my lips because I feel like it makes it easier to wear lipstick or lip gloss or what have you. And so whenever I get out of the shower, I always give my lips a little exfoliation with a washcloth. And that works fine, but I feel like a washcloth is so big, you need something really handy that you can use a couple of times and then toss it in the washing machine and be done with it. Now these guys, what's really cool about these is they have this little hole in the middle that's created from the little chain, the crochet chain that you make. And when you bunch them up like this part of the scrubby right there fits perfectly on your lips. It's almost like a little cotton knit lip balm shape. That sounds absolutely crazy, but you can kind of see, I'm going to get really close. But you can kind of see what I'm talking about. So that goes right over your lips perfectly. So you put a little bit of chapstick on, get this wet with hot water, wring it out, and then scrub away on your lips. And it is perfect. I can't even tell you like how I look at, because before I would use like a really soft like baby toothbrush or like a washcloth. And it was fine, but the toothbrush was kind of annoying. And then the washcloth is too big and cumbersome, and you use it twice and you have to wash a whole washcloth and whatever. But this, it's so easy and it's just perfect. I keep a good stack of these in a little jar next to the sink. And Lauren, I'm definitely going to need more of these. And I could learn how to crochet and make them myself, but if you're so inclined, you can make some for me and send them my way. But anyway, I have these by my sink. I've washed them all several times and they are just so perfect for that. So anyway, stick around. At the end of the show, I'm going to insert Lauren's video that she's sharing with us on this this little pattern, this crochet pattern. So if you're a crocheter, or if you're not and you would like to just give it a shot, these are just so perfect. Or if you're a knitter and you know of a pattern that does something similar, you know, let me know. But anyway, I love these so much. I just wanted to share that with you guys. I know it's probably silly, but a tip from me to you. So yeah, definitely stick around at the end of the show and I will share Lauren's little tutorial pattern info with you guys. I want to remind you that I have 2 features that I show at the end of my podcast episodes. One of them is a local yarn store call to action where I ask you, the viewer, to send in footage from your local yarn stores to the podcast, where I can then share them at the end of the podcast so that people can become aware of all of the different local yarn shops and all of the different places where we come from as viewers of the Wool Needles Hands podcast. So that is one call to action that I have. My second is asking for those of you who have the guts to provide a little video clip, and you can see an example of this at the end of the last episode, of your knitting or crochet or any fiber related craft, your sin involved in that. What is it that you do to cut corners that maybe you don't want to admit to, but that you should, because there's lots of people that probably do the same thing. So I just love to have this be something that we're all doing together. So if you have anything like that, definitely send it to me and it will be featured at the end of one of the episodes. Okay guys, have a wonderful Thanksgiving if you are here in the States. If not, have a wonderful week and weekend. Happy knitting, happy fall to those of you that are celebrating this season. Happy spring and summer to those of you in the Southern Hemisphere that are celebrating that season. Just have a really great week and I will see you guys on the next episode of the podcast in 2 weeks. Bye!
Hi viewers of the Wool Needles Hands podcast. I'm Lauren and I'm Taylor's good friend that lives here in California. And Taylor asked me to come and talk to you a little bit today about some face scrubbies that I made for her as part of a gift. The pattern for the face scrubbies comes from youshouldcraft.com and it's called Crochet Face Scrubbies. These are really quick, easy, affordable, and that I think that they're just a great little project even if you don't know how to crochet very well. So this is a project that I think is fun to do, and it serves a good purpose because you can use these for washing your face instead of using a lot of Q-tips or cotton balls, anything else that you might decide to use on your face. And these do a great job of helping with eye makeup remover, anything like that that you would use. You can give your eyes a good scrub, which is always healthy, and these can go straight into the wash and make sure that they get nice and clean. Since they are made with a cotton yarn, you don't have to worry too much about that. They're using the Lily Sugar and Cream yarn, and you can make so many face scrubbies out of just one of these that I think you can usually pick up for $1 or $2. So I'm excited to teach you just how easy it is to whip up some of these for you or for your friends. Okay, so now we are ready to get started and get to work. I've got my yarn. I chose blue this time in the Sugar and Cream. And my crochet hook is just a USJ 10 or a 6mm crochet hook. So the tutorial shows how to do a magic loop or gives you an option of chaining 5, but I kind of figured out a way to do the magic loop, and I think that that works really well. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. So once you've got your loop started, you are going to yarn over and go into the center of your loop and pick up your working yarn. So you'll see you have 3 loops on your needle now. So you're going to do that same thing, the yarn over and go in. So now you have 5 until you have 11. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Okay, now I'm going to grab one more and pull that yarn through all 11. Okay, so then you have this, and you're gonna chain one on top, and that is one little puff. So now you're gonna repeat that whole process until you have 8 puffs. Okay, so now I have my 8. The next step is to tighten up this loop. So you're gonna take your tail and go ahead and just pull until they all come together. You wanna make sure that your working yarn stays on the outside here, so you might have to kind of retwist your work as you pull, but then just get it going, get it nice and snug. And you kind of see, you can kind of move things around a bit, but just make sure that's nice and tight there. So now go ahead, hook back into your little working loop there. Here's your tail, you can kind of keep it out of the way. Start by going in to, let's see, the first stitch that's at the top of your puff. And go all the way through. It might seem hard at first, but you're gonna kind of find that it gets easier as you start working it. And just do a slip stitch there so that you connected it all together. Now what you're gonna do is do another puff. You're actually gonna do 2 puffs into that first hole. So same process as before. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Pull it through and chain. And now you're gonna see a nice big hole there that you can kind of work into. Okay, now I've made my way around. I've done all 16. So what you're going to do at this point is just connect by doing a slip stitch into the first puff, and then into that same one you can just do a single crochet, and then what you're going to do is single crochet around the entire thing into every single stitch. And now you've got your puff, and all you have to do is weave in your ends. I'm not going to show you that because I'm terrible at how I weave in my ends. So anyway, I just make sure that they stay in there so that when I throw these in the wash, they're not going to come unraveled. But I have a nice little face scrubby here to use to clean my eyes, clean my makeup, clean my lips, and all that.